Okay, ready? My big money-making idea is a yak extravaganza!
Oh yeah!
I don't know if you guys might remember a show about a yak who wore a big ass coat, who hung out with friends like this blonde white girl, and a kid who had a freaking pineapple for a head. It aired back in late 2002 on Nickelodeon, and the show was called Yakkity Yak.
That's it!
Yeah, most likely it's one of those shows if you were forced to stay home because you were sick and it was the year 2003 and you'd be flipping through the channels, well, guess what you might find?
Yakity yak! Yakity yak!
Now, Yakkity Yak is an Australian-Canadian animated television series created by, you already know the answer, created by Teletoons. Cause who else is gonna make Canadian television shows and bring them over to America? Thank you, Teletoon. Thanks for that. The most memorable thing from this show for me was always the theme song. The theme song, Yakkity Yak, is a modified version of the 1958 soul song, Yakkity Yak, sung by the Coasters.
You ain't got time to take no ride. Yakity yak!
Don't talk.
Yakity yak! Yakity yak!
In which children sing some portions of the song.
No, no, no! Yakity yak! No, yakity yak! Don't talk back!
And the audio was then altered and fixed and modified. And that's how the intro for the show was roughly created. Now, the show was animated in Flash, with the usual looking animation styles of how stuff from Canada tends to look from time to time, with shows like the Total Drama series, 2007 George of the Jungle, and that show Almost Naked Animals. Oh god, don't get me started on that show. Now, Flash animation doesn't always have to look very lazy and putrid. Sometimes you can make something really great out of it, like how it was used and very resourceful in shows like Kick Buttowski, Suburban Daredevil. Just look at this animation. It looks really great and not super cheap and lazily thrown together.
Now, why didn't you think of that?
Now, the show takes place in Onion Falls, and yes, that's where a lot of food-related material is going to be found throughout this TV show. So any fans of food or names of food, get ready to have an explosion of excitement out there.
An onion off the bunion shot with a... It's good!
The show was about this yak character named Yakkity. Yeah, cause using names like Tyrell and Draymond and James, they're way too over-redundant and just too generic. Whatever happened to cool names like Raymundo?
Right, yeah. Too cool to understand. Too, cool-a-rooney. Yeah, come on, Tito, say it. Cool-a-rooney. Cool-a-rooney. Kinda rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
But Raymundo, though, you gotta cut out that cool Rooney shit. It ain't working. Hey, but getting back on track, some of Yakkity's hobbies include telling jokes and looking like a bitch. And the guy sounds like he's inhaling helium through a hookah while being strangled with ropes.
Yep.
But Yakkity strives to be the best comedian in the town. Who knows, maybe the whole world. Even though I joke on Yakkity's voice, it's actually really fitting for this show.
How about that weather? Sure been a lot of it lately. I'm dying here.
No, I'm not trying to throw shade. That's not my style. Yakkity being voiced by Lee Toker, who was the voice of Dr. Frog in League of Super Evil, Bling Bling Boy, and Johnny Test, and he also voiced Pronto from the series Slug Terra.
Okay, gang, let's scare this turtle ton away from this town.
Pronto has it covered. What? I'm having a bit of a trouble here.
When Yakkity's not bothering the crap out of the rest of the town, he can usually be found hanging out with his other two best friends. The first being this white chick named Lemony. Who the hell names their child Lemony? I guess Lemony Snickets would be proud.
Lemony Snickets, a series of unfortunate events.
I am your beloved Count Olaf.
Lemony is somewhat like a less annoying version of Chloe from that show, The Fairly Odd Parents. and is usually being portrayed as the straight man, well, girl in this case, for not falling for a lot of Yakkity's bullshit and crazy schemes and not getting too involved with his over-the-top problems he goes through from week to week. She can get a little selfish at times, but all in all, she's a pretty cool, down-to-earth, not annoying character in the TV show. So good job for that. But after watching some of the episodes of the show, Lemony's voice is something that stood out to me, and you can really tell from right off the bat who's voicing her. That's right, she's being voiced by Andrea Libman, who currently does the voice of Pinkie Pie and Fluttershy in the My Little Pony franchise. So anytime she speaks, all I hear is Pinkie Pie talking through this white girl's body.
Your Auntie Pinkie Pie's got it all taken care of. I'm a year older than you. Because aliens are beautiful creatures who, give gifts and sing.
So pretty much like watching Extraterrestrial Girls. Yeah, don't get me into those movies. Hey, I got nothing to say about those movies. The other main friend of Yakkity Yak would be none other than this anthropomorphic talking human with a pineapple for a head.
Wow, that is so creepy.
I'm not joking, that's who the other character is. Things get weird sometimes in this TV show. I talked about mixing races. I ain't talking about mixing races with pineapples. Hey honey, I'm seeing somebody else. Hey, you gonna divorce me? Who you divorcing me for? Well, I'm seeing a pineapple. Well, that's just fucking great. This character's name is Kyo, and he's not as full of himself as Yakkity is, but he can get pretty close to it at times. Kyo is what we are supposed to assume to be the smart character of the group. He sometimes likes throwing shade and throwing his intellect into Yakkity's face.
No, even I can't listen to me anymore. I've lost my touch, Kyo.
You never had the touch.
My nigga, you just got roasted, yo!
But it usually doesn't work because it flies right over Yakkity's head because he's being way too foolish and he can't figure out what the hell he's talking about, and that helps him make a lot of more wrong decisions throughout the TV show.
Finish him.
There's also more characters like Yakkity's grandma, who is actually a pretty funny character in her own right, and not really putting up with a lot of Yakkity's crap and calling him out on all his bullshit and stupid antics, and the things that he just spits out of his mouth from time to time.
You're making enough noise to raise the dead.
You have the bully character in this show as well, because every cartoon in the 2000s had to have some kind of a bully character plot device. Lemony's older brother Rondo, who plays football for the school that Yakkity attends, and he's also always trying to show up Yakkity and make him look like a bitch and make him respect his presence whenever he's around him, and to strike fear into his heart.
So concerned about my feelings.
Oh god. Yeah, Yakkity, you better respect the Rondo. There is also Kyo's dad, who is actually just a talking pineapple, who is usually pretty bossy and very short-tempered and act like he has a pine cone shoved up his ass. He is voiced by John Ratzenberger.
Change the channel. Change the channel.
Apple when it reaches maturity.
Change the channel.
A lot of you might recognize his voice from the Toy Story franchise as he voiced the character Ham the Piggy Bank.
I can't find it. It doesn't seem to be on any of these stations.
Keep looking.
Oh, you're going too slow. Let me take the wheel.
Your father has fallen into another dimension.
The teacher of Yakkity's class, named Professor Crazy Hair. He's a pretty cool character, always trying to educate the kids, but in the long run, those kids don't learn anything from this guy because a lot of times he doesn't really make a lot of a sense. And his hair changes colors like some kind of mood ring or a freaking rainbow being tossed in a blender when you're drunk. Either way, that's kind of what his hair looks like. That's a pretty cool idea for a character. Hey, but he also has this robot assistant named Penelope, who learns more about kids' customs throughout the TV show and how to be a real girl. Like in the episode where Lemony has to take her around the town, teaching her more about how to act normal and learning more about what it's like to be a real human girl. Learning how to act normal from Pinkie Pie. That's just something that seems really funny. There's also the character Trillo, who is a purple trilobite who is Yakkity's agent who helps him out with his comedy gigs. And Trillo is one of those characters who's always scheming wild and wacky ideas, trying to make some extra money on the side. He's pretty much like the Eddie of this show, but slightly smarter.
Guess you don't want to hear my surefire money-making scheme.
Get in!
Some other notable characters of the show would be Mr. Regan High Pants, this guy who runs and owns the candy shop.
To the candy shop. I let you lick the lollipop. Go ahead, girl.
And sells all things sweet with many treats. He's like the guy from the candy shop on The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. So just imagine that guy in the Yakkity Yak TV show, and that's pretty much who you got. But he's less psychotic, we'll give him that. He's pretty much like Larry from Gumball also, due to him how he can be found having so many odd jobs, and wherever Yakity goes, it seems he's always there. So he's not like a one-off character. He's actually very fluid throughout the TV show. The show only lasted one season for 26 episodes, so it did fly under the radar for a lot of people out there, and most probably wouldn't even remember it airing. But it did for a strong 1 year, starting in November 2002 until December of the following year. The show wasn't too bad, well, it wasn't too good, but it did have some funny moments in it.
Stop right there, mister! I saw what you did to that poor, defenseless weakling!
Oops. Am I in trouble?
Of course not! You're on the football team!
And some pretty likable characters. The problem I found with it was just, it had nothing that was super amazing that stood out, and the show just kind of drifted and kind of just floated in the back of people's mind, and most likely have 95, 99 maybe % have forgot the show even existed. I would compare it to the likes of slightly more obscure variations of shows like Hellswick or Mike, Lou and Og, shows with some pretty good grounded characters and somewhat of a decent world building, but those shows also are forgotten a lot of times. It really just couldn't catch people's attention for some reason. Who knows why?
Boring.
That's all for me. I wanted to bring you guys this show Yakkity Yak. Did you think it was cool? Did you think it was whack? Let me know down below in the comments and I'll let you go. Make sure to ring that notification bell, because if you don't, I'm living through hell.
And you sound like a broken record.
Stay awesome and take care. Cory out. Peace.